With These Hands is made possible by the Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy, with support from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, and additional support from the Leelanau Conservancy, the Old Mission Conservancy, and the Grand Traverse Regional Community Foundation.
On the surface, farmers are about growing food: apples, cherries, grain, cattle. But deep down, they are about growing home. Their neighbors, parishioners, teachers, and friends in the Michigan communities of the Old Mission and Leelanau peninsulas. They are the roots of a place where nature crafted a climate so unusual as to make it almost unique in the world. There is a culture in agriculture we can feel, but often forget. It's a more subtle way of life, balanced to the rhythms of the seasons, a story written in longhand over the pages of time. It tells of simple things that slowly transform the earth, of quiet people who gently change our lives. They steward a land that eases the eye along the back roads, with cherry blossoms, rolls of hay, nodding heads of rye. It takes a longer, closer look to see what else they do along the way.
Mary and Whitney Lyon live in the white farmhouse that Whitney's grandfather built, among proud orchards that overlook the bright waters of Grand Traverse Bay. In the glow of a summer's dawn, Whitney may be out on his tractor, and Mary in her kitchen, making pie dough with a flour sifter that's been in the family for a century. Mary's cherry pies bubble with the same cheer as her presence, and both have touched many a soul on Old Mission Peninsula.
I enjoy doing that so much, talking to people that are new at church, new in the community, new at the library, new any place where I go. I have heard from some people who say they have been around for a while and no one has even spoken to them. Well, they must have not met up with me, because if I see anybody new, they're going to get spoken to whether they want to be or not.
Mary and Whitney first met on a blind date and couldn't stand each other. They've been married for 46 years. They raised 10 children in a house with a tireless kitchen, a single bathroom, and a living room that often bursts with life. Fourth and fifth generations of Lyons are never far, and at family gatherings, the welcome is served warm. Buffet style here. Take your fill. There's plenty to go around. This feeling spills over into the community just as surely as Mary's pies spill over into her oven. She offers daycare in her home, and she's never had to advertise.
We both love kids. We've been in the child care business for 32?
Yeah, a long time.
32, 33 years. He's grandpa and I'm married to many, many children on this peninsula, many children. And
All the kids don't.
they don't call me grandma, they call me Mary.
She's married to everybody, even the little kids run around her and want something. Mary?
Yeah, we raised a lot of kids here. And a lot of them come back, and we even have their second generation of children coming here. And I had one that came back here this past summer, and she said, Mary, you know what I remember the most about you? She said, whenever we spilled milk, you would always give us a hug.
For many years, Mary says, they lived off daycare because of lean income on the farm. When they sold their development rights, they secured a retirement income and preserved their land forever. It is Mary's great joy to share her life and this land with her children, grandchildren, and community. As for Whitney, he's been on this farm since he was born, and the land has been in the family for 120-some years. He loves to be outside and to take care of his orchards with the same dedication as his father.
You grow quality fruit, that's what you should say. That.
Yeah, we try to grow. I mean, my dad was that way too. My dad took great pride. He always did. He said, if you want the people to come back, you got to give them quality, you know. That's what he's staked his reputation on, is producing quality stuff,
It must have rubbed off because he's fussy about it. Machinery has to be clean and scrubbed, and he uses a whole container of Dawn just to wash his sprayer, and a whole container of Dawn lasts me all month with dishes.
So that's what we try to do. We just try to produce quality.
Father Barrett, pastor of St. Joseph Church, calls Mary and Whitney the guardian angels of the parish. When people can't get a hold of him, they call the Lions. They serve at every Mass and welcome every newcomer. On Sunday, Whitney will greet you at the church entrance, show you to your seat, hand you the offertory basket, and lock the doors behind you when you leave. Mary has played the organ at Mass for nearly 3 decades, and she organizes many church activities. She authored the parish history and can tell you the attendance for any given funeral dinner, for which she probably provided food. She sends cards to the suffering, and her favorite mission is taking Holy Communion to parishioners at the local nursing home. The Lions occasionally try to step down from the Catholic Services Appeal, which they have co-chaired for 28 years. No one will accept their resignation. Whitney says they know everybody in the parish pretty near by first name. Visitors from all over the world have toured their farm, and many have stayed for pie. In a world where keep out is the sign of the times, the Lions say, come in. Mary says she has the most beautiful place in the whole world, so she wants to share it with everyone. Just before dawn on a misty morning in the kitchen of the white farmhouse, Mary takes her pies from the oven. Through slits in the crust, the cherries jostle one another, their breaths of fragrant steam. Mary spoons up a dab of filling to test the flavor. She bakes and lives with a simple, profound recipe. Begin with what is wholesome, work hard for what is good, and share what you love.
I just tasted the edge in it. Just about right. A little on the tart side, but that's the way our sons like it. I wish I could invite you all over for a piece right now.
Leo Ocanis began his farming career at age 7, picking cotton in Texas next to his mother. She would always encourage him, and when he'd worn himself out, he would fall asleep on her long cotton sack and she would pull him along behind her. Being a migrant worker wasn't easy, but Leo remembers it as a good life. No one went hungry because everybody worked, and they always had what they needed. Just enough, he says. Just enough. Sometimes it rained though, work stopped, and just enough had to stretch a little farther. Leo vowed that someday he would not just work a farm, he would own one.
When I was 11, I decided that someday I was going to own an orchard here in Old Mission Peninsula. And you know, I was a migrant, so I came here for 5-6 weeks of cherries and then go and pick cucumber somewhere and then go and pick tomato somewhere and then come back and pick apples here and all like that. But in my mind, I told my mother, I said, one day, I don't know how I'm going to do it because we didn't have much money. I said, one day I'm going to. And yeah, in 1978 I did. Yeah.
After 30-some years of sacrifice and saving, Leo became an American citizen and bought his first acres on Old Mission Peninsula. He didn't have a sprayer, tractors, or a harvester. Only himself, his wife Carmen, their 2 children, and the dream of a determined boy whose mother urged him to try a little harder each day. Those orchards grew to more than 350 acres as Leo worked with the Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy and neighbors to preserve a large portion of his farm holdings. He now grows more apples than any other farmer on the peninsula. Still, last year was tough for Leo, like so many other farmers, for so many other years. Low produce prices don't offset high land costs, expensive sprays, and labor. To keep debt down, Leo uses a fleet of agricultural flotsam pieced together by his friend and mechanic Don Roll. Don says Leo pushes his trucks, tractors, and forklifts as unstintingly as he pushes himself. Unlike Leo, the equipment needs a lot more encouragement to keep working. In a rare break from picking on a late October afternoon, the air is warm and fragrant, a treat after a bitter cold morning. Leo's crew gathers to feast on fried chicken, beans, and homemade cakes. Laughter ripples up and down the table, passed along like a very hot dish. These friends have been gathering for years, some for as many as 18 or 19 seasons. Leo and Carmen have a son, Leo Jr., who farms with them, and a daughter, Angie, who comes up from Florida to help in the summer. But it's clear that the Ocanis family only begins there. 4 members of Leo's migrant crew are brothers in their 20s, Eliezer, Gustavo, Luis, and Miguel Bagañas. They return each year to work 7 or 8 months on his farm. Leo calls them his boys, and they have grown up in his care. He wonders when these vibrant young men will get married and find other work in Mexico. But they always come back. It's easy to see a young Leo in their faces as he teases them, gives their shoulders a shake. Their hands are as calloused, and their eyes are as bright as his. Before sunrise on an August morning at the farmer's market, Carmen quietly arranges her produce, picked the night before. The heady aromas of ripe peaches, robust tomatoes, and Mexican tomatillos mingle in the cool air. The market buffers their finances. Still, says Leo, you can only use so much money. Carmen keeps her prices down so more people can afford to buy. And if she can tell that someone is really in need, she bends a little more. Sometimes she simply gives. When they came for the harvests 40 years ago, Carmen and Leo remember that Old Mission Peninsula was orchard as far as the eye could see. Farmers have suffered a financial drought, and the land is being sold for less fruitful but more profitable uses. But as long as he can help it, Leo says, his orchards will stay. Farming has been his life, his challenge, and his reward.
I just wonder when I see all these apples that I got and cherries, I just wonder where they go. And it makes me feel good to know that somebody's eating my fruit. Even if it's here or in another country or wherever it is. And that's why I like it, because I plant the trees and then I see them grow and then I see them harvest and somebody's eating them. And it makes me feel good, whether I make money or not.
In late September, the weather has been blissfully warm, the apple crop gloriously heavy. At the processing plant, its fragrance radiates for miles. Here, Leo receives a rare 100% perfect grade for his load, just as his mother would have hoped. She was so proud of his orchards that she asked him to bury her in a cherry wood casket. 10 years ago, he did, under a granite heart as heavy as his own. He points to a ridge at the back of his farm, looking toward the sunset. It was her favorite view.
She used to go up to that hill up there, and she always told me that she knew inside that one day I was going to own something like this. I wish she would be here now, but that's the way it goes. She still looked down. She's still watching us. Someday, I might build a little cabin or something here. Yeah, up there, on top of that hill. Because you can see both lakes from there, or both with the water. And you can see the whole farm from there. Oh, it feels good. All this, we done it with our hands.
On a January afternoon, Lou Seibold is in his orchard, counting his trees and his blessings. It's hard to know what the future will bring for the cherry industry and how many new trees he should plant, but for right now he is grateful for the mild winter, and he's thinking of spring, the most glorious time of his year. Lou grew up on a small wheat farm in central North Dakota, in a close-knit community settled by Germans from Russia. When he and his wife Kathleen first married, they worked on his parents' land for a year. Then Lou became the first in a long line of farmers to leave the land for a career in architecture. Kathleen became a teacher. But when they began a family, they sought a life and a place that would offer their children the good things they themselves had known. They looked for a farm, and for Lou, it was a homecoming. Their search ended on Old Mission Peninsula, defined by water, strengthened by community. It has a rare microclimate, and Lou can feel its subtle shifts just by walking from one part of his orchards to another. He's one of the younger farmers on Old Mission, but like many, he relies on his other profession to supplement his income. The fields of farming and architecture both appeal to his sense of symmetry, of balance, of order. His feel for aesthetics came from farming into architecture, not the other way around. Farmers may not admit it, he says, but they all have a sense of beauty. You don't tame nature, Lou says. You bring it something, and it brings something to you. In the base sense, you either work together with it, or it'll get the better of you. But in the finer sense, there is a relationship that flourishes with the best of earth and man.
In the springtime with all the blossoms, that's really a time when you go down a row and it's just snowball white. Or you're pruning out there and it smells great. And it's one of those days where the sun is out and it's warm, it's on your shoulders, you know, and you look up and there's the water on one side, there's the water on the other side, and you're in the midst of the trees. And then you see at about harvest time all this beautiful fruit hanging on the trees, and you just sort of can't believe it. I go down with a tractor or I walk through it and I can say, There's just nothing like this. I can't imagine another place that I'd rather be right now than right here.
At the end of harvest, Lou confronts his accounting ledger. For a farmer, payday comes after the crops are in. The rest of the year is preparation. A farmer's paycheck comes maybe 30, 40 times in their life. It's a high-risk business. In a certain way, farming is like a religion, he says. You take a leap of faith. It's like having a family. At some point you know it's what you want to spend your life doing, he says, so you do it. It comes with all kinds of difficulties, all kinds of joys and sorrows, just like raising children. And it is the children who give roots to Lou's conviction. When his son Aaron is busy on the farm, Lou says, he seems to have more of a sense of things being meaningful and of being part of the family, part of the business, and part of life in general. On the farm, his son and daughters learn by osmosis. The setting offers them many chances to grow as individuals and as members of a team. Lou doesn't know if any of his children will embrace agriculture. His youngest, Annika, says she will. Aaron loves computers, and Annalisa might be a writer or a teacher, but Lou can see Annika as a farmer, perhaps because she was raised among the orchards. Or it may be, he says, she has it in her blood. He'd like to think there's something to that. Lou considers himself a newcomer to this area, but he looks ahead and wonders what the future will bring to the land and the community around him. As an architect, he designs spaces that serve people. As a farmer, he nurtures places that feed them. As both, he seeks a harmony and balance between humans and their environment.
I think a lot of farmers just give up. We say in Old Mission Peninsula, it's all going to be houses someday. Well, if we think that, it probably will be all houses someday. But if we make other choices about it, make other decisions, and do other things, then it doesn't have to be houses someday. It could be a farm yet. And it probably will be a mix of developed land and farmland, but I don't see a difficulty with that as long as farmers speak for what they need and people respect one another for what their needs are. I think we can live together.
Lou believes that farms are not just a source of food, they are a way of life that is both unique and integral to society. There is a culture in agriculture. It recognizes that food is basic to us all and that we should not take it for granted. Just before harvest, Lou walks from tree to tree, pulling at a cherry here, examining a leaf there. He wishes the people who will eat his fruit could behold it in its element. He believes that he and his family are cultivating something beyond the measure of money, something perhaps beyond the power of words.
Wealth has a lot less to do with money than just being successful. I consider just being able to live in this place a great blessing. To me, that's a kind of wealth. And being able to work the way we do as a family, that's another form of wealth. And being able to just see these trees in springtime, that's another form of wealth. And you can't measure those by dollars, but it definitely has something to do with the quality of your life. You just can't buy something like that.
Rex Dobson lives on the farm his great-grandfather homesteaded, with a land grant for his service in the Civil War. In his family's care, this Leelanau County land has prospered. the fields proclaim the work of many hands over many years. The old farmhouse has not changed much since Great-Grandpa Core built it around 1876. When Rex's mother made it her home, she painted it white with red shutters, and Rex has kept it that way. In the kitchen, where many a visitor stops, her cook stove still warms his days.
This stove here is, my folks put it in 1937. Has a fire in it pretty near every day. There was a couple days last summer it didn't have any. It helps your disposition to have a wood stove burning, hot crackling fire. Then it gets to be a real stormy nights. The wind comes howling down the chimney, whistles. A lot of people, they'll never know that experience. It's just something kind of nice to know. So, would you like a cup of tea?
Rex walked a mile to the Bingham Township Schoolhouse, where his grandparents met and fell in love, and where he had the same teacher his mother did. At high school in Traverse City, he was pretty well set on being a farmer, and that made his father happy. Rex's folks are buried up at the Bingham Cemetery, and he often takes a cream can over to water the flowers. He brings forget-me-nots in spring and tries to keep it as nice as he can, because a lot of the old people are there. Rex's days follow the course of the seasons, or as close as he can get anyway. Rex says he doesn't know of anybody who's caught up, that being a farmer means always being behind. There's hay in June, cherries in July, rye, wheat, oats, and alfalfa coming on by mid-August, corn in late October. He spreads his risk with a variety of crops. The family farm is going by the wayside, he says, because it's getting harder for small farmers to make ends meet. Rex worked with the Leelanau Conservancy and the Michigan DNR to preserve most of his family's farm.
It would be nice not to have it split up, parceled off, because that's a temptation. Taxes and the way the farm economy is, sell some land. And that's what is happening so much of the Leelanau County anyway. I would just as soon keep the farm the way it is, preserve it. Because my great-grandparents and my grandpa and grandma and my folks, they worked real hard to get where we are now.
The farm includes a small settlement of outbuildings, each with a history and a story or two. Rex's great-grandfather built the barn around 1870 with hand-hewn oak beams and thick hemlock boards. Nearby are the granary, the cookhouse, pig house, and the buggy house. In the hen house, a solitary rooster crows and cusses to himself. The corn crib, says Rex, is where the kiddies have their breakfast and supper, under the watchful eye of his collie, Laddie. On the buildings, in the gardens, Rex's hand lends the farm an artist's touch. In the magic of Christmas time, he transforms a roadside sunflower into a radiant candy cane. Rex's finest creation lies within a little building made by his grandfather. Over a century ago, Perry Core built a shanty with a chimney to keep his American Indian workers snug in late fall when the early snows danced around the corn shocks. His farm was a half-mile from the original family homestead where Rex lives. When it passed out of the family, Rex towed the shanty to his place and made this tiny shelter a harbor for his family's heritage. Inside the shanty, old hand tools sprout from every hook, nook, and nail, and Great-Grandma's cook stove adds warmth with or without a fire. Up here are Grandma's roller skates. Over there is Uncle Ray's volleyball with the names of everyone on the Bingham baseball team since 1903. Generations of family farmers. Photographs offer a rare chance to row backward against time, to explore the tributaries that flow into the stream of days. Rex has arranged his mother's side here, his father's side there, a bit of Rex within their faces, a bit of them within his life. Rex preserves these touchstones for his own satisfaction, but he enjoys sharing them as he works to maintain the character of his farm. People stop by as visitors, as customers for crops, as students of history. They marvel at this chance to touch another time, to feel another way of life. But there is more to the farm than things. Objects only come to life in the hands of those who give them meaning. It is Rex that imbues this place with a sense that the past is yet the present. It is his influence that cultivates the heart as well as the soil. He is the thread that connects the patiently woven strands of hope over generations. In the shanty, Rex jingles the straps of sleigh bells that cheered many a winter's ride. They don't make them like this anymore, he says. They don't have the same tone. He reaches below them and lifts out a fawn-colored brick, its chipped edges cradled in his hand. Before Rex moved the shanty, he dismantled the chimney, and when he rebuilt it, he cleaned the old mortar off the bricks. On one of them, he uncovered a message from his grandfather that only a careful, caring hand might find. A whisper of faith stretching through time.
I was dumbfounded. I couldn't hardly believe my eyes when I seen that. As far as scrape the mortar off, and here there's writing on that brick. It said, in pencil, famous little shanty, everything is fine, 1892, PA Corps. It's Perry Corps. Everything is fine.